I remember when my grandma used to visit, and she and my mom used to set up a couple of stools outside the chicken coop, and they would wring the heads off of a couple dozen chickens. My grandma could sit on the stool and balance a whiskey sour on her knee and hold a cigarette in the same hand she used to spin the chickens' heads off their bodies, by grabbing their heads firmly and twirling the rest of the chicken in a circular motion until the two chicken segments went separate ways. The head went into a growing little pile at her feet, and the torso went running across the yard. My grandma wouldn't stop until she'd reached their quota, or she fell off the stool drunk. There's not many people that can decapitate chickens, smoke a pack of Pall Malls, and become stiff drunk at the same time, but my grandma didn't like to waste time. She disapproved of anybody that would waste time. For example, she said she disapproved of crickets as a species. She said they were all chirp and no work. Of course, she said the same thing about my dad and me and my brothers and the kids from the next farm down and the president at the time, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Incidentally, LBJ actually had a pretty serious impact on the life of one of those neighbor boys. He disappeared when I was in high school, to be found 2 weeks later hiding behind a pile of boxes in the attic, where he had intended to sit out the duration of the Vietnam War. The psychiatrist found this action powerful evidence of his sanity, and he came back from Cambodia a couple of years later, one-armed dope fiend. So me and my brothers and the neighbor boys from up the road used to make a game of chicken football out of it. We would do this by chasing after the headless chickens and seeing how far we could kick them while they were still on the run, which is not as easy as you might think, because although a chicken with a head still screwed on is a feckless creature, without the benefit of a central nervous system, they become downright unpredictable. At first, we would try to kick the chickens for accuracy as well as distance, aiming for a pair of homemade uprights we had installed in the yard. But this became too challenging, so instead we settled for distance alone. After a while, we got pretty elaborate with it and developed a set of rules for our chicken football. Mostly they were made up and enforced by my little brother, who was always kind of rule-bound and later became a prison guard. For example, it was illegal to kick a chicken that had sort of run down and was just laying or standing there. For the kick to count, the chicken had to be a moving target, and picking up the chicken and drop-kicking it, strictly forbidden. My little brother started off by throwing a dirty towel at us as a kind of makeshift penalty flag, but he found that the towel didn't really carry very well, so he just started picking up chicken heads off the pile and chucking them at us if we broke a rule. I remember one of them hit me in the face and cut the tip of my nose with its beak before it fell on the ground, and it kind of stared up at me with one eye. I remember it looked kind of accusatory or something, but then that one eye started kind of winking and blinking, so I figured that the chicken knew at some level that it was all just good fun. So we would chase the chickens and try and get in a good kick while my brother measured the length of the chicken's flight from the point of impact to landing with a tape measure, and he would write down points with a system that he had devised that nobody really understood. Mostly we missed and just fell on the ground laughing, but once in a while you'd connect really good and you could feel the impact all the way up your leg, and that chicken would go spinning through the air with blood still spurting out of its wide-open carotid arteries, making a kind of a whirling arc of blood and flapping wings. But most of the time you'd miss and the chicken blood would just drench you. Man, is there anything like childhood memories? I can still smell the blood.